Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending MNC Group Investor Forum 2022 at the group meeting of PT Bank Sentral Asia. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am Tirtawi Digilang Citradi, who will be moderating this session with Bank Sentral Asia. The theme is strengthening Indonesia's resiliency and transformation is in line with the effectiveness of various strategic efforts by the government in boosting economic recovery during the pandemic. In addition, G20 presidency is the right momentum for Indonesia to contribute to the global economy through the various implementation of strategies, transformation, integration, and synergy in all lines. These 4 days of conference will be attended by domestic investors and a network of investors abroad who have partnered with our Bbca in more than 125 countries. The event consisted of 3 days corporate forum with the leaders of Indonesian listed companies and will be closed with the highlight of the event, namely Macro Day, that welcome all participants to attend keynote address and dialogues from Indonesia's policymakers and capital market regulators. To start this session, please allow me to give a warm welcome to Ibu Vera Iflim, Chief Financial Officer of PT Bank Sentral Asia, who will be our keynote speaker today. So without further ado, the management team of Bbca will give their presentation and we will follow up with the Q&A session. Just to remind you, if you have any question, participant can just type it on the chat box or use a raise hand feature, so I will lead the Q&A session. Now I would like to invite Ibu Vera Iflim to give company update and strategy of Bank Sentral Asia. Ibu Vera, the screen is yours.
Hi, thank you, Tirta. Good morning, everyone. We are glad, thank you for joining us in the early morning on Monday. And I think before I start, I have a very short video just to show you what will be the digital initiatives that we have been launched over the year 2021.
Dari hati terdalam berterima kasih. Halo Lina, cintamu untuk kerennya keyboard Bbca dan fitur-fiturnya. Kiki, Dea, Ade, Kara, Dini, semua-muanya.
Terima kasih telah hadir bersama Bbca. Dalam tahun penuh tantangan, kesetiaan dan apresiasimu selalu menjadi arti bagi Bbca. Sebagai pelaku industri perbankan di tanah air, Bbca senantiasa konsisten berinovasi, terbuka, dan responsif terhadap perkembangan teknologi informasi. Digital platform terbaru My Bbca, langkah awal super apps Bbca. Halo Bbca Apps, terhubung langsung ke CS Halo Bbca, bebas tanpa pulsa. Urus ini itu dibikin simple pakai fitur lifestyle di Bbca Mobile. Bbca Mobile kini menjadi primadona nasabah, telah menjadi fitur digital banking dengan peningkatan transaksi yang signifikan. Pada November 2021, Bbca Mobile mencatatkan jumlah transaksi all-time high hingga mencapai 1 miliar kali dalam sebulan, tumbuh 3 kali lipat dalam 2 tahun terakhir. Bbca berkomitmen mengedepankan nilai-nilai ESG, mendukung program vaksinasi untuk lebih dari 230.000 dosis karyawan, keluarga karyawan, dan masyarakat umum. Kami juga terus memberikan nilai tambah bagi UMKM di Indonesia sebagai salah satu tulang punggung perekonomian Indonesia. Bbca meluncurkan sejumlah inisiatif hijau berkelanjutan, diantaranya pengelolaan limbah EDC Bbca. Pada tahun 2021, sebanyak 4,4 ton limbah EDC Bbca dimusnahkan melalui proses penguraian untuk didaur ulang. hanya sekitar 5% limbah edisi yang dibuang ke TPA. Selain itu, BCA juga menggagas inisiatif pengolahan limbah kartu ATM menjadi paving block. Hingga akhir tahun 2021, terdapat sekitar 1 ton limbah kartu ATM yang diolah menjadi paving block. BCA for Sustainability, Life to Engage. Terima kasih 2021. Kami ada hari ini karena kepercayaan dan dukungan dari nasabah, regulator, otoritas perbankan, seluruh stakeholders, dan keluarga besar BCA. Kedepan, BCA terus berkomitmen menciptakan terobosan-terobosan nyata di bidang perbankan bagi masyarakat luas, berinovasi dan berkolaborasi, mendukung pertumbuhan ekonomi yang berkelanjutan untuk Indonesia. Dari kami yang senantiasa di sisi Anda.
Thank you. Thank you. Without further ado, I would like to start I think it's a short sharing this morning to all of you. We remain optimistic about the economy. As we are glad to see that the recovery is continuous. I think a couple of things that we like to highlight on here. I think we do see that credit growth demand will continue this year. Earlier this year, we just launched, I think we just finished our 3 days physically expo for mortgages and for four-wheelers, and including with the virtual expo. In just 3 days, together with virtual expo, total application for mortgage reached almost slightly just below 8 trillion rupiah. And for four-wheelers, reach almost 4.5 trillion. This is, I think, is a very good momentum compared to last year. We are glad to see that the middle class demand is start to push up. And thanks to the government, we are hit by Omicron as well early of the year. And now government start to relax the restriction, in which we do expect mobility to improve. And next. And a couple of things I think we see, despite there is challenges, digitalization definitely shift, and actually is even faster during pandemic. And you will see later, I show you in our digital initiative, including the transaction growth, which hit record high last year in Bca. Now, a couple things about economy this year. As you know, that high oil prices as a result of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war today has a potential to push inflation up in near term. But however, what we see our robust trade surplus buffer and including potential less hawkish Fed will help maintain rupiah stability. We do see the sharp increase in coal prices should be offset in the rising oil imports as well. Other top exports commodities such as CPO prices has been driven up as well. This, which is I think will be important, I think, for our economy, particularly from the export. We do see that capital market inflow as investors are more inclined to invest as high commodity prices have boosted the earning outlook. With this, recovery in Indonesia remain broadly resilient, and we keep our loan growth this year about 6 to 8%. And we start to see, because of commodity price increase, we start to see loan demand for more higher working capital, particularly from the corporate sector. When they need to pile up the inventory with higher prices. So the demand on the working capital start to coming in at the early of the year. Next slide, please. Now, just to highlight you on the last year, I think Bca remained posted a very solid growth over the past 2 years, despite pandemic hit the country. Our net profit year-on-year increased 15.8%. Loan growth last year outbeat industry on average. We grew about 8.3% over the industry 5.2%. CASA remarkable, I think, growth in the past 2 years. Year-on-year CASA about almost 19%, particularly on the saving. In the past 2 years, our CASA grows, I think, 3 times faster than on average industry. Another area that, next please, another area that we like to show you, I think, some key ratio. ROE last year, 18.3%, is one of the highest in the past 4 years. Capital remained high, 25.7%. Loan at risk, it was peak in 2020 on 18.8%. Last year, such a trend down 14.6%. Our guidance for this year range about 12 to 13%. NPL 2.2, sometimes 2.4%. This is our guidance as well for this year. Coverage ratio has been improved substantially. Last year, we closed the year with coverage about just slightly below 40%. Another area that I would like to highlight is our cost-to-income ratio. With the rise of digital transaction, we were able to bring down cost per transaction significantly. Today, cost-to-income ratio as of last year, 34%. Our guidance for this year is already 38 to 39%. This has been improved substantially compared to pre-pandemic 2019. Cost-to-income ratio on average about 44%. So you can see such a sharp improvement in the past 2 years thanks to the digital strategy. Next, please. Now, I think let me highlight you. I think digital is very important in our cost strategy today, particularly the funding franchise. How robust is the CASA franchise has been substantially, I would say, improved quantumly in the past 3 years. These are some key initiatives that we launched last year. On the mobile banking apps, merchant apps, we launched merchant apps as well. This is, I think, it's a kind of collab to accumulate, I think, all the merchant to serve them through the merchant app. So if any merchant, they need QR code, they need EDC machine, they can apply through merchant apps. On top of that, they can use other features that we provide them for free. Inventory system, GL system, tax system, you name it. So these are merchant apps. I think in the future, we see merchant apps will also, I think, might cater for lending business, which we don't start today yet. Now, another area I will say that you can see online transaction, open account through online mobile banking. We launched it back in 2019. Never thought a pandemic hit the country. And in the past 2 years, number of accounts opened through mobile banking hit more than 6x in the past 2 years. API transaction, next slide please. API transaction today, almost, I think the past 2 years, you can see on the slide, hit 6x just in the last 2 years. Number of transactions combined, mobile banking and internet banking today, it's total about 88% of our total number of transactions. Last year was record high. In terms of total transaction, year-on-year increase almost 42%. Mobile banking, last year, another record high, year-on-year increase 58%. Today, we have about more than 28 accounts, I think, that using the digital transaction. ATM transaction today represent about 10% of total transaction. So you can see that a lot of transaction today is actually done through digital. Next slide, please. Now, another area that we remain very focused is on the ESG. This is my last slide. So I have a very short presentation so we can have more time for Q&A. ESG is our very core focus. Today, total about 25% of our total finance, our business is considered sustainable finance portfolio. Last year, record high year-on-year grew by almost 21%. So we have about 8 sectors that consider sustainable sector that Bbca is financing. And on the SME, last year, first time we introduced online SME to promote, to help customers of SME throughout Indonesia, help the first time for them experience how to sell their product through online. So this is, I think, our effort to help SME business in a situation of pandemic, to help the business can be sold through a digital platform. Recycle and reuse initiative, we are ongoing. Last year, we recycled EDC machine, small pieces, but when we gather together throughout Indonesia, last year about 4.4 tons has been recycled, including all the plastic card, ATM card, credit card, debit card, you name it. Last year, we recycled about 1 ton of this plastic card, so zero waste has been impacted. So this is, I think, we would like to update you on the ESG. We were rated A+ on the MSCI throughout, I think, almost by 2 years already on the ESG. So this is, I think, we will continue. First time last year, I think our carbon saving about 880 tons. First year, I think we start to calculate carbon saving. More and more initiatives we plan in coming years, including this year. So this will conclude my presentation, a short sharing about 2021 result. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Vera, for the comprehensive presentation. We really appreciate how BCA can navigate a tough time during the pandemic and still manage a superior performance last year. So let me remind all of you who have any question, please, you can just chat it in through chat box or use a raise hand features. Seems that we have two questions here, Bu Vera, from Rio Al-Fajri, Rio Al-Fajri and HRP channel. For Rio Al-Fajri, we will let you to unmute yourself and please ask the question direct to Ibu Vera.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Good morning, Bu Vera. So once I live in the Netherlands for continuing my study there. Many people there really concerned if they want to invest to the finance or banking. They're really concerned in where the banking invest, like to give the loan, especially if they still give the loan for the company who still run the dirty energy, for example, coal and something like that. I would like to ask Bbca, do you have like Bbca in general? Do you have the plan to reduce or not to give any more loan to dirty energy company? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rio. Wish you success in your study in Netherlands. It's a very good question because I think your question is related to ESG. Now, our government has a plan how to do a transition, highly rely on coal until to the clean energy. And as you know, this is a transition. It cannot be switched overnight. And coal, everyone is still high rely on coal. And when you see what happened globally today, with the energy crisis throughout globally as well, so some countries still reconsider back to coal as one of the source of energy. Now, what important, I think, for the bank when they finance either the smelter, either the industry, that's, I think, we also have today what we call environment sustainability assessment risk for the customer debtor by debtor. So some customer they are actually advanced on the ESG program. Some is still taking baby steps. Now, another area I think we need to consider when a country start to switch to this renewable energy, what is most important for the country is affordable. Affordability is very key to make sure that economy recovery ongoing. And as you know, ESG is not only focused on environment, there are social component and governance component as well. So for a country like Indonesia, government has, I think, thanks to our government, I think the focus is equally balanced. So not too much on environment itself, but also on the social as well, because social play a very important role in our economy. For such a big population, social stability, social make sure that the social welfare is well taken off. So that's my view. I think we need to go to the transition. Secondly, important to make sure the energy is affordable for, I think, larger population. I think that's to create a much more sustainable economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Vera and also Rio Al-Fajri for the interesting question. Bu Vera, I will follow up the question from Rio Al-Fajri. There is another question related to ESG implementation in BCA. This is from Don Don. It is interesting how BCA tracked and measured its carbon footprints from its operation. Bank Sentral Asia Sustainable Financing grew double-digit last year to 154 trillions. From the ESG point of view, what are initiatives to be taken in this year, and what metrics or rating that BCA trying to achieve? Thank you.
Thank you. I think ESG for us, I think there are a couple areas. What you saw, I think, in the video, I think how we recycle EDC machine, how we recycle the plastic. This is part of our operation day to day, because I do see, despite we are not a manufacturing company, banks contribute as well, can contribute more for carbon saving. Another area, digital transaction. The growth on the digital transaction definitely contribute to more and more carbon saving. And paperless as well. So what are the initiatives? I think we have to talk about the environment initiative, social strategy, including governance strategy. I think we in Bbca, we focus equally balanced for the three areas. Now with customers, starting this year, OJK start to introduce green taxonomy early this year. So we need to map all the sector that been financed throughout this green taxonomy. And we start to also incorporate in our credit policy, including environment assessment, environment risk assessment, customer by customer. We do see that, I think, particularly like CPO, 84% of our customers, they are certified already. The rest, their product is only sell domestically. So they don't think there is a require for this certification, but they are compliant with domestic certification. So this is just to give you some idea about how the bank can also, I think, continue promoting ESG as part of the daily operation, including business.
Thank you, Ibu Vera, for the comprehensive answer related to ESG implementation in Bbca. Next, we move to another question from Helva Helmi. Please unmute yourself.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you, Ms. I would like to know that as we know today that the big issue is incoming inflation for this year and for the next years. And I want to ask about what the incredible strategies for Bbca to keep their EPS, to keep their EPS sustained like the last year or this year for the next year, because the issue of the increasing price oil and some other commodities will affect the economy for the next years or for this years. What is the incredible strategies for the Bbca to keep it its EPS sustainable? Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Helmi. Very good question. I know. I think we all have to aware. I think the president has said himself about that. We can't afford, I think, on a higher inflation throughout the year. We noted also, I think, the cost push from the customer point of view has been increased, particularly on the debtor side, manufacturing, name it, across all economic sectors. So with that, I think we are aware that I think customer might need more working capital because of the cost push. Now, when we observe particularly all the corporate customer that I think that heavily linked with these commodity prices, I think that today inventory usually about 3 to 6 months. That's, I think, common practice. So when we talk to the customer, they might not pass on the cost in one go. This is, I think, is very. I think this is a good news. I think for the rest of the consumer. So the cost will be, I think, adjust gradually. But important, we know they need more working capital. So this is, I think, we prepare, I think, to finance the customer for the short period because of the high price, because one day cost might back to normal again. So with this, I think we also noticed that central bank might high rate this year. Our projection is about 50 bps, particularly in the second semester. The good news, I think, our trade surplus buffer and a potential less hawkish of Fed will help maintain rupiah stability. This is good news, I think, for Indonesia. So BI has room to only raise our projection is about 50 bps this year. With this, I think I don't see them a bank or Bbca. We need to hurry to adjust our lending rate because we need to make sure that the customer have a room to adjust with higher cost pools, or might be also a lower demand, particularly for this year, because consumer need to adjust with a gradual increase on the price.
Okay, thank you, Bu Vera, and thank you, Pak Alpha. Yeah. I will follow up the question from the previous question that it is interesting when you talk about Russia and Ukraine and also the impact to higher inflation that might be following. And then we know that the Fed would likely to aggressively adjust their interest rate. But you said that according to your calculation that BI is expected only to increase by 50 basis point this year, and BCA will not aggressively adjust lending rate, right? But as we know that BCA is also one of the largest private bank which also have exposure to corporate loan, a corporate bond, I mean, which we know that the percentage of composition of corporate bond in BCA balance sheet account for 4% of outstanding and corporate loan. What do you think how this might impact corporate bond? Do you have also any calculation or sensitivity analysis that this will also impact the provisioning, for example, or yield? So such kind of that, Bu Vera?
Thank you. I think the corporate bond is not, I think it's a small portion of our earning asset. Now, particularly the corporate bond that we invest is it's the same debtor that we are financing as well. So either corporate bond or the loan is the same credit risk. When we rate the customer. So the corporate bond, I think it's the same risk again with the loan book. So in that case, it means that we only finance the corporate bond as long as the credit risk is acceptable. So we are not, I think, finance any paper in the market, but only to the link with our own debtor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bu Vera. And then we move to another question from Sangam Ear. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi. My question was on similar lines. Given that the commodity prices have all moved up and the inflation is expected to spike quite sharply, why do we still have just 6% loan book growth guidance? I mean, wouldn't the absolute working capital requirement be much higher, and that would lead to a higher loan book growth? I mean, are we factoring in the potential higher inflation and the strong commodity cycle here when we are guiding for a 6 to 7% loan book growth this year?
Yeah, thank you for your question. Yeah, we are. I think in terms of guidance, loan growth guidance, this year always give a conservative guidance. This year is about 6 to 8%. I do hope economy recovery continues. I think, yes, everyone's talking about inflation today. Central bank might hide the rate, but we do see that the adjustment to the consumer will be gradually. After we discuss, particularly on the key commodities player in our portfolio. And the second thing, I think when we look at the loan at risk today, I think we do expect trending down. I think what's important for this year, I think the economy is continue the commodity prices doing well. That's, I think, help in terms of our trade surplus, in terms of continue, I think, holding the prices, impacted the rupiah stability as well. So with this, I think we do hope that loan growth should be much better than last year. Last year, if you see the growth of last year, 65% of the growth was actually kicking in the Q4. I do hope this year the growth is much earlier. So on average, loan growth should be much better compared to last year. Another point that I would like to highlight, I think the mobility. Government just reduced the restriction. So today, I think about 75% of the employee can work from office. This is a good news because why? Because when you look at last year, right after Delta COVID, when mobility started to improve, consumer recovery, including a business recovery, just shoot to the roof. Even some higher than pre-pandemic level. So today, I think mobility is very important. I will say that for Indonesia economy recovery, we do expect that it has started now. So and next year is a fasting month, and the following month is a Ramadan month, which is, I think, is a very important moment for business. It's one of the big business, I think, throughout the year. So with the less restriction and travel ban also start to be relaxed, I think it's a good news. We see that tourism should be back as well, and hopefully we don't hear any new variant anymore. Then business can back to normal. I think gradually. That's what I hope actually. As everyone hope as well, because I think 65% of the economy is still consumption driven in Indonesia. So this is very important.
Okay, thank you, Bu Vera. Sangam here, do you have any follow-up question for Bu Vera? Okay, then I would like to.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi. Yeah. Sorry. I suddenly got unmuted. It got muted. I didn't know how. So given that all these positivities are there in the system, which is when you compare it to the last 2 years, shouldn't your loan book growth be higher at least this year in double digits before coming back to high single digits? I mean, why this conservatism in this guidance? And number two, I'll just ask all the questions before I go to mute. Since the yields are expected to move up, but you would be passing on gradually. So the assumption here should be that our NIMs will be more or less similar to last year. It's only going to be the absolute loan book growth flowing down, right? That's how one should be looking at how the profitability would be.
Yes.
And finally, on the given that your cost to income ratio is expected to move up from 34% to 38 or 39% on a higher base now, given that your loan book growth would be higher than last year. So our effective profit, the risks to the effective profit to grow compared to last year could be higher this time, right? Until and unless we are going to see a sharp improvement in our credit cost.
Yeah.
So can you help us understand how the P&L will look here, given that there are so many variables that are moving, and though on the better side, but few of them are detracting because last 2 years we have not increased our expenses, etc. So can you help us understand how to look at this?
Yes, sure. Liquidity is ample, not only BCA but for the banking industry. So second, if you ask most of the bank, everyone would like to grow their balance sheet. Same like BCA. So lending business is remain very, very competitive. Everyone is chasing good quality customer, definitely. So pricing remain very competitive as well. And you might surprised to see that lending rate still soften. I think in the month of March, despite we know that I think low interest rate is no more and everywhere. I think central bank we can see central bank start to hike rate. So of course, I think we would like to grow, particularly on the loan book itself, both consumer and business loan. But I think it depends on the demand, I would say, because bank can't drive demand. What we can expect is the recovery continues and mobility continues to improve. So let's see this year about the loan growth. And for BCA, quality is most important. That's, I think, what stands out about BCA, particularly when manage the asset quality. This year, I would say margin, our guidance margin is about 4.9 to 5%. Last year, 5.1% margin. We do expect margins start to I think still a little bit lower, impacted because of the end of last quarter last year. I think loan yield has been dropped quite substantially. The margin in the fourth quarter was 4.9%. But no worry about what I'm looking for is more volume. I think this year. Now, with regards to cost of credit, we do see cost of credit this year should be trend much lower compared to last year. As you know, cost of credit last year was about 1.6%. Our guidance for this year is about 80 bips to 100 bips. Cost to income ratio, I think we manage it so well. We just expect some promotion, some business activity can be back after being off for about 2 years. So hopefully, I think this year, I think it's another good year for economic recovery in Indonesia. So don't worry, liquidity is ample. We are looking for growth as well, I think, like other banks.
Got it. And finally, how easy is it to pass on the, since you said that, the rising interest yields, so 50 basis points if the central bank increases, those yields to pass on, it will be more gradual in nature. It won't be passed on immediately. Is it because of the competitive intensity that you believe that you won't be able to pass on the higher interest rates soon? And to what extent will you absorb the increase in the interest rates and not pass on? Can you help us understand? Let's say, for example, I read, someone like JP Morgan mentioning that, the interest rates could go up by 75 basis points this year, from 3.5 to 4.25. What's the thought process? When we look at to what extent will the bank absorb the interest rate before it starts passing on to the customers?
Every bank have a different capacity to pass on the loan yield, definitely. I think, but for Bca, our cost of fund is one of the lowest today.
Right.
Total, yes, I think today we remain the price leader actually on the asset side in the market. So you can compare our price. I think it's one of the lowest already. It's one of the lowest. Our new promo rate for mortgage, 1 year mortgage is only 2.65%. This is under Indonesia context. This is the lending rate, and including that's for the four-wheelers for 1 year rate. So with that, I'm not that worried how to pass on. My worry is on the customer point of view. We do hope they can adjust this inflation on the prices manageable in their cash flow. That's, I think, more important for me, because if the customer able to adjust this nicely, they can manage their working capital properly as well, including also can help us to keep the asset quality. So because of that also in the mind, we don't think that we need to pass on the lending rate in hurry, particularly this year. So our aim is to get more business volume with a good quality customer.
Okay, thank you, Bu Vera, and also Sangam Ir for the question. We have to understand that we still have around several minutes for this session, and I would like to proceed to one more question. This come from Zakia. Hello, I'm Zakia. I have a question. Banking in this era challenged with the emergence of fintech. However, Indonesian banks sees fintech as a growing partner and are aimed at channeling loans. Given OJK's recent plan to ease regulation for banks to acquire other tech company, what is the BCA plan for this? Does BCA have a plan to acquire fintech or aspiring other types of partnership and collaboration? Please, Bu Vera.
Thank you. It's a very good question. I think long before this regulation, I think BCA, we have our subsidiary called Central Capital Future. Okay. We have subsidiary. It's a venture capital, BCA Venture Capital, in which I think is a focus on this investment, expanding actually our connection or ecosystem with the community-based startup in the many area, in the healthcare, logistics, B2B, e-commerce, and so on. So we do, I think, our strategy, either direct investment, co-investment, or including how we can synergize with focusing on digital collaboration. So we invest in more than, I think, almost 30 plus startup today. I think just to name some of what the one of the newest, I think we are investing in one of the startup that focus on games, gamification as well. In the last 3 years, I think 18 players that we have been invested. So today, we add more on this, startup, including also, I think we invest in the startup that focus on digital lending, digital insurance, remittances, just you name it. So yes, we do invest, but through our subsidiary. We don't do directly from BCA, because I think, when bank do it directly, sometimes create a lot of hassle. So we do it through our subsidiary.
Okay, thank you, Bu Vera. Since the time is almost up, last but not least, Ibu Vera, please can you give us a closing remarks to conclude today's session? Thank you.
Thank you. We do expect, I think we keep economy continue to recover, mobility to improve. With this, I think this year, I think for banking sector, it should be another good year, including for Bca. We're promoting higher loan growth for this year, 6 to 8%. Hopefully, we can do much better. Consumer loans pick up actually at the early of the year. So today, 3 days expo, you can see the loan demand for mortgages and for four-wheelers, particularly coming from middle class, continue, I think, post a very strong demand. This year, we do see that, I think, transaction will be much, much higher compared to last year. Despite last year is our record high on the digital transaction, year-on-year 42%. We do expect this year we can do more on the digital area, mobile banking or internet banking. Collaboration, our more initiative, particularly through our digital strategy. Our subsidiary Blue, I think, continue doing well. We just launched about 6 months. Today we have almost just less than 300,000. I think the customers, and also I think we do have, I think the funding, I think reached about 3 trillion by now already. Day to day, I think we will continue promoting ESG as part of our initiative and our business strategy. So we look forward, I think, for a better year this year. Thank you.
Again, thank you, Ibu Vera, for the comprehensive presentation and our closing remarks. We really appreciate how Bca can navigate a tough time during the pandemic and still manage to deliver strong performance in the last 2 years.
Thank
To
you.
all participants, that concludes our call for session today. I would like to personally thank for your attendings and also especially to management of PT Bank Sentral Asia. And then for your information, the upcoming group meeting will be at 10 a.m. today. And the companies that will be presenting their update and strategy are Era Jaya Swasembada and also Bank Negara Indonesia. We remind you that we also organize a full day of virtual conference that welcomes all participants to attend presentation from Indonesia's policymakers as well as financial services regulators who will share their views on the latest post-pandemic recovery update. See you next time. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tirta.
Thank you, Ibu Vera and management team.
Yeah, success for MNC event.